When you have
Okay,
an
meeting
incumbent
called to
in
order.
office.
She meant business. Sorry. Oh, I'm nervous. This is only my second time ever doing this. Okay, can we rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we do the roll call.
Blodgett,
Here.
Kulada. Here. Beechman. Garrett.
Here.
Enders.
Here.
McKenzie.
Here.
Smith. Here.
Okay. Any comments from the audience? No? Okay. And then approving the consent agenda. Would anybody like any of these items removed from the agenda? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to, oh, we do a roll call. First we do,
First, read the items that are on.
okay. On the consent agenda, the minutes from the Tuesday, March 20th meeting, expenditures, the cash disbursement detail report from March, and the technology plan for 2018 to 2021. Okay?
I don't want to remove anything. I did have questions about the technology plan though, so can I just ask those in a different part of the agenda? Just for clarity.
The best way to do that, how many questions?
Two.
Oh, sure, why don't you ask them now?
Okay. I noticed that for the plan for fiscal year ending June 30th is to investigate different accounting applications. And ever since I joined, Joe has not been so subtle about the need for a new financing application. And I see the word investigate, but I don't see then where is there actually going to be a purchase or an implementation. So maybe I'm overlooking it, and I just wanted to know, when's Joe going to get the new financing tool that he seems to need?
I thought it should have been under the next fiscal year, but I don't see it there, so that probably was just an oversight when we're putting that together.
Boy, we missed that one.
Yeah, whenever it will likely be fiscal year 2019, depending on what he brings back to on the committee level.
Okay.
That's a good question.
I guess that's really the only really significant question I had. Was very pleased to see the 4.8, the diversification of computers for patrons. I thought that's great.
So, a motion to approve the consent agenda? Anybody? Rich?
Second.
Okay. And roll call.
Blodgett,
Aye.
Kulada. Aye. Garrett. Aye. Enders.
Aye.
McKenzie.
Aye.
Smith. Aye.
Okay. And then, can we have a motion to approve, or any questions about the agenda?
I do have one addition.
Oh, okay.
After agenda item number 14, I would like to add a closed session to update the board on an issue.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to write that in. That remind me. So we are adding a closed session after 14. So if anybody would like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Aye, as amended.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Okay. And then I'm going to hand this part over to,
Say all.
oh, I'm sorry, all in favor, say aye.
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 And then opposed.
Any opposed?
Okay, thank you.
All right, now I'm going to put this one over to George, the per capita grant.
Very good, thank you. I'd like to begin this section by introducing our new promotional services coordinator, Pat Leonard, who is standing there. Please stand.
Yeah.
She's been here, what, 2 weeks now?
Oh, actually, this is my 4th week.
Oh.
That time flies. Anyway.
Welcome.
Okay. And in the per capita grant, we had 3 requirements left to deal with, so it seemed to make sense, since we had an extremely light agenda tonight, to address all 3 different requirements in one fell swoop. So the first requirement relating to trustees, you may remember last fall, we were asked to review chapters 1 through 5 of the trustee facts file, 4th edition. And this year, the State Library wants the trustees to review chapters 6 through 10, which were in your packet. I don't have any summary report because there's a lot there, and it's the kind of thing that, you know, is best probably read and considered individually. But if there are things you would like to discuss tonight or questions you have about anything, then we certainly can address that.
Okay. I honestly may say I didn't have a chance to pick up my packet ahead of time, so I don't want to vote saying I've read this and did that education part since I haven't.
And there's no vote to take.
Okay. Is there a due date that or is there something when we have to turn in?
No, this one we don't have to turn anything in.
Just know that you gave it to us and we will read it.
Last year, when the application, they had a surprise question relating to the trustee facts file that, of course, the State Library didn't tell us in advance. And I fully expect them to do the same thing this year.
In the, where did you get the question?
In the application form itself. And I forget what the question was, but I wasn't snarky exactly, but in the application form, I pointed out that it would have been nice to have had that question when the board was actually able to discuss it. But it was just some little, you know, it wasn't a huge thing, but I don't know why they have things they want to ask about, why they don't tell us in advance and all that everything else.
That would make sense.
Yeah, so.
I just had one question, and
Sure.
I think it's quick, and I think I've heard this answer before, and I can't remember it, but it's with respect to the E-rate, and I think I remember saying we don't participate in that.
We don't any longer. We used to participate. The reason we don't is a combination of changing the emphasis from telecommunications to internet, and the requirement that and the amount of money available has declined to the point where it's extremely small. The last time we actually did get money, it was maybe less than $2,000 or less than $1,000. And the corresponding federal requirement that by accepting money related to the internet piece, that we would be required to filter computers for children primarily. Well, it's the Children's Internet Protection Act, but it would require all the computers to be filtered, and then patrons would have to request to have the filters lifted if they were adults. And that we've always believed in Batavia that was contrary to the openness of our provision of information service. So those are the 2 reasons for that.
Yeah. I thought I had remembered saying that we didn't participate, but I couldn't recall what the reason was.
We did for a long time, but the amount of time is actually extraordinary that it takes to file all the paperwork, even though a lot of it's online. There's a lot of details. We had to get information, reports from telephone companies and such, and the amount of money we're getting that our current accountant and our previous accountant felt that there was a real diminishing return on the amount of work that went into getting such a small amount. Anything else on the trustee facts file? And to answer your question today, there's no particular deadline. It's at your leisure, and it's kind of thing you could dip into as needed as well. So.
And we don't have to, like, do anything other than just read it.
Right.
Okay.
And even that, review can be broadly conceived.
Yes,
So,
right.
We're not going to have any.
No clue.
No quizzes, no
As long as it's open, no.
No essays. But it has a lot of useful information,
that-
and I think a portion of it was included in the binder that we gave everybody when they first joined the group. So, we have a professional collection. Well, I guess this is a good time to mention that we have a professional collection, which is not available, not commonly used for public checkout. We house it outside of the Technical Services Department, but it has a lot of useful information, publications on a wide variety of library-related topics. So, are those visible in the catalog? Do you know, Carrie? or
Yes,
Stacy?
they are. They're just, the call number is professional collection, and they're marked as reference.
Yeah. I don't know how often people request them. Do you, Stacy?
Well, they can't place a hold on them because they're reference items. Occasionally, we'll have a library school student inquire about a specific thing. Though most commonly, they're asking about your catalog tools that are not available for them to use.
So you'll be able to find, if you're searching our catalog, you'll be able to find those. And if it says professional collection, just ask. We can get those for your review. Outreach. I sent this out, and I think nearly everybody has responded to this. The Illinois Veterans History Project. I think this requirement was more to educate everybody. We've had selected employees review that site, which is quite compact, and now you will all have done that as well. So that's just simply informational. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them. I think sometimes the State Library wants to promote various aspects of what the Secretary of State's office is doing. So. Or I should say the Secretary of State's office wants to promote what it's doing. The third thing is the educational piece. And this year, the requirement relates to let's see, patrons with challenges or disabilities, focusing on meeting the needs of patrons with challenges or disabilities. So we selected a video educational opportunity called The Librarian's Guide to Homelessness, which was released in 2014 by Ryan Dowd, the executive director of Pessimis. And we used, well, it was actually released in 2013, but we used it in 2014 as part of our staff development day. And since that time, all new hires are required to watch this as part of their orientation. The actual video itself is 38 minutes and 40 seconds long. We're not going to show the whole thing tonight. We're going to show the first segment that had an obvious break that's about 13 minutes long, almost exactly 13 minutes long. And so we will do that now. And it's interesting that he ended up expanding this and turning it into a very good book. And of course, we just recently had a seminar here that he led that was based upon the book and his guide and his guidelines, and it was extremely good and well received. So let's see. Jim was out of town due to a family situation, and so the report, he did complete the report that was in your packet prior to his leaving town last Friday. And he did not have anything in particular that he thought I needed to say, but I'll be happy to try to answer any questions in his absence.
Well, we didn't have a finance committee meeting, but I just had one question
Sure.
on the budget. It's this line in the second page under operating expenses, automation maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like year-to-date, we're already over budget by $22,000. and spent 18 in March, and I just didn't know if there was
You know, I'll have to ask.
reason for that, or if there was something that we budgeted wrong, or,
I'll have to ask him about that.
because we still have 3 more months in the fiscal
We
year.
do.
So,
We-
and I don't really know what that means, automation.
Yeah.
It's
I
maintenance.
mean, maintenance is.
Yeah, it's maintenance and service contracts. Further down, you'll see computer software and hardware / technology.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like janitorial, like more maintenance, right, like in.
No,
No?
when it says automation maintenance, that line is used for Link
Oh,
and will be used for Swan. And so we've actually made our last payment to Link at this point. So
maybe it's the implementation of Swan and.
we didn't really have a lot of expenses in that regard, but I think there's, Joe may have been reevaluating some items in the budget, because our OCLC costs may actually, they used to come out of technical services, although they really didn't belong in technical services. And he may have started to shift some of that over this year, but we could ask him that question for you.
I mean, everything else is so under budget and it's completely, that just stuck out of me.
That's a good point, and he and I did not talk about that before he left, but I can certainly ask him that question. So, we will be having a finance committee
Right.
meeting. So,
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the finances? Okay, and then president's report, well, the president's not here, so. And he didn't give me a report, and I don't have anything to report to you.
We can move on.
Okay, good news and comments from the board.
Did we miss Librarian Appreciation Week? Was that this last
Library
week?
Week.
National
Last week.
Library Week.
That was last week.
Appreciated.
Okay.
We had a lot of treats coming through the door.
Batavia,
Okay.
Batavia Women's Club set up a schedule to bring treats throughout the
Oh.
week at different times of the
Oh,
day.
that's
so-
great.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you
Along
to the
with nice little
Batavia
cards
Mothers
and
Group.
things, so,
Somebody appreciated you guys.
yeah. Well, and really, it's not meant to be appreciate the library staff week, but we did appreciate all the attention we got.
Okay, and then correspondence and communications.
There is one very exciting letter in the
Yeah.
packet. We did receive our check for last year's per capita grant, which was funded at around 27 cents, or 77 cents per capita, so we have up to a little over $20,000. For the first time, I think in 3 or 4 years now, we have been notified that the state is funding the per capita grant at the full amount of $1.25 per capita.
Wow.
So it's been at least 3 years since we've seen that dollar amount come through, so we're quite excited about that. We don't expect to see a check for about a year, I think, but that is,
Then they don't give you a whole lot of time to spend it either.
well, this money we can spend through June 30th of 2019, that the 3-hole punch actually knocked off the 30th. The grant we just got for $20,000, we haven't got it all spent, but we do have to have that spent by, we have to have it encumbered by June 30th and spent
Right.
by August 15th, so, and we will not have any difficulties.
Okay. I mean, if you need help, I can always help you spend some money.
Stacy and Joanne will take that under
Yeah.
We have spent some of, we did encumber some of it already because of some things we knew we wanted to do, and the state told us that once you get the letter, they consider this a contract. And, but once they issue the letter, they turn all the documentation over to the comptroller's office, and from that point on, they disavow any knowledge of when the money will come. So, the comptroller's office now has all of these letters, and it used to be that around this time of year, we would be getting this money that we could have till June 30th of the following year to spend, but the last few years have not been quite that good at the schedule. So anyway, we're quite excited to get that money.
Yeah.
And that was really the only piece there.
Okay, and then, do you have a report?
I do. The written report is in the packet. I should mention in advance that Joanne is not able to be here this evening. I will mention, but we'll let Stacy give you the details on an upcoming New Lyceum lecture series. And I gave you a sneak preview of my next column in the Neighbors because it relates to one of our favorite visitors to Batavia nearly 150 years ago. But nothing else special to highlight at this point other than from the individual departments. When we get down to the link report, Carrie is here to give another SWAN update. We'll do that under committee and official representative reports. So
Wow.
I guess I would defer to Stacy to talk about those things. Unless Joanne gave you something for you.
She did not, no.
No, she didn't. She did not expect to be out this week, but she's been out the last 2 days.
George had mentioned the New Lyceum Lecture Series event. That's coming up the day after the next board meeting, which is Wednesday, May 16th, 7 o'clock. The title of the lecture is What Does a State's Attorney Do? And it's going to be presented by 2 Kane County Assistant State's Attorneys. So we're looking forward to that event. Last month I was talking about the Tournament of Books, which was in full swing at that point. We have a winner and we have a runner-up. It was a hard-fought battle right to the end. The winning book was Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. And the runner-up was The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. So it was a book for adults, a book for young adults, going head-to-head right up till the end. Laura James, the librarian who's put together our tournament and coordinated the event, has also put together a web page that lists the full list of books in the tournament. So if you're looking for something for recent fiction, solid, good writing, something good to read, it's a good scrolling shelf on that page to take a look at. We also have a page showing last year's books. So recent fiction. And one other thing, George did not mention, but I think you might all know, that our team won the Trivia Bee for literacy since we last were here. I was there on the panel of judges, and George, Aria, and Cindy took the thing home. So it was impressive. Very impressive.
Was there a question that really put you over the top? Or blew everybody away that you guys had the answers to?
The fight did break out over one question, but I forget which question that was. You may have forgotten it too, but there was a dispute that the judges ended up letting that be a free question for everybody. But, and we were upset because we got it right. But no, the interesting end to the Trivia Bee was that there was a tie for third place and a tie for first place, and we finished in a tie for first place. And there were it took 2 rounds of questions to win, and those questions are particularly interesting because you get 1 point for a correct answer and you get -1 point for an incorrect answer. So you have to be careful. And the other, huh?
Like the SAT.
Right.
See, it is, yeah. And for the first time, I think, in the history of the Trivia Bee, which I believe is like 18 years old or something like that, the 3 Tri-City libraries actually finished 1, 2, and 3. So we beat St. Charles in the playoff round for the first place tie, so they finished second, and Geneva beat Elgin Community College, I think, for the third place team. So I'll give you one question that's short, because we didn't get it completely correct, but thank God it didn't hurt us. So name the 4 railroads in the Monopoly.
Reading?
Baltimore, Ohio.
Pennsylvania.
Vienna.
No, not.
That's an
Is it
avenue.
Pennsylvania
Yeah.
Railroad?
Yeah.
So there's Reading Railroad.
Pennsylvania.
Short line.
There you go.
Short.
You guys.
Oh, I wouldn't have
we
ever
wouldn't
had
have- we
short
wouldn't-
line.
Really not a railroad.
Right.
If we could have thought of Reading or Reading Railroad, we would have actually not had a second playoff question because we would have won. We only thought of 3 and we were desperately upset with ourselves. We thought the other team was absolutely going to get all 4, and they didn't either. They only got 3 of them. So the one we won on was name the 14 states that are crossed or that encompass the Appalachian Trail.
You have to name all 14?
All
Well,
14.
you get 1 point for a correct one and -1 for an incorrect one.
Oh.
And we got 12 points
That's
out of that.
amazing.
That's amazing.
And the second place team got 4.
Oh,
I would just start.
pat yourself on the back for
So
that
enough
one.
voting, that was enough voting.
Now I'm gonna go home and think,
I know,
okay,
I
if I
was looking at
can.
maps.
No, I'm just gonna see if I could name them without
Yeah,
looking
so-
at a map.
So, It was fun, it was fun.
I do have one question about Joanne's report. And just, what's the acronym OPAC?
Online Public Access Catalog. We often just refer to it as the computer catalog, but that's what it stands for. I think that's it for the.
Okay, and then the committee reports, you have anything to say about the community engagement?
Well, we had what I would call a very successful session 3. The topic was money and capital repairs. And we had a similar sized group to the previous 2. But my phone just is doing something. The discussion seemed quite engaged, not to overuse the term, and we had a very interesting activity to require or ask people to rank various alternate sources of funding for the library, and it generated a lot of discussion and I think debate. But I'll let you.
No, I agree. It was what George has done at the library here before. It's called a forced choice, where you compare one item to, we compared them to 8 other items, and each one you had pick, you had to make your choice. And then the second item against the third, fourth, through the 8th. And then when you're all done, you total up how many of those numbers you chose. And it's just a really interesting exercise. I told George, I think it's a wonderful exercise. I hated the exercise because it's really hard to make those choices.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel uncomfortable to make those hard choices. But I think you get 2 benefits from that. You get the benefit of the community understanding those hard choices, as well as figuring out what's important to the people, because the most important one does kind of bubble up. And I agree, George, that at the table I was at, they were very engaged and very
More questions than we had in the first 2 combined.
Right.
It was, and the list of, we had 9 possible, probably should have had 10, but we had 9 possible funding options, including raising fines, charging for meeting rooms, charging for programs, having a referendum. We had 2 different referendum questions, which the attorney told us was legal to do in this
Right, we
context.
checked on that.
And
Raising public funds,
yeah,
Was
private
another-
fundraising like the foundation and the Friends are doing, and
borrowing money.
yeah, borrowing money, yeah. So, and so I think that the real value in the exercise was the first thing we had them do is we gave them 10 minutes. Actually, it was extended beyond that to discuss the 9 options, and that's where a lot of the questions were coming out. People were raising their hands and wanting to get further understanding, and people thought some of them were okay and hated others. So it was really a very energetic kind of discussion. Then the ranking exercise caused a lot of gnashing of teeth, but it was, I think, what Joanne said about the benefits. The key benefit is that those folks there got a taste of what a library board might have to do in terms of making hard decisions in this thing. And so it was good. So I believe, Pat, did that go up today, the presentations?
It's gonna go tomorrow.
The presentations by Joe and by Chris Contra from BTC, they each did about 12-15 minutes of presentation on their respective topics. Will be on the website tomorrow. Just click on the Speak Up logo on our homepage to get to the Speak Up page. And the executive summary will follow, hopefully, in the next, several days or by next week. And you can get I think both gentlemen did a great job with their presentations. Rich, you were there. Do you have any comments you want to make about?
No, I felt positive about it also. I thought it was well done. I thought it was, it made you think, I think, at least as much as the one prior to that, which was talking about libraries. It made you think your way through the various options that are available.
The hard part is we're starting to think about what the program will be for number 4, which is the basic theme is, did we hear you correctly? And so the idea is to take key elements of the various executive summaries and verbatim reports, and the facilitating team. Unicom Mark will develop basically a list of statements derived from that data, and the facilitating team's job at its next meeting, a week from tomorrow, will be to process those statements and identify ones to basically bring back to the larger group on May 10th. And the facilitating team will meet again a week from tomorrow, then the Wednesday after that, to try to finalize that. And the statements, like goals or objectives or statements of interest, is what will come back to this body for consideration.
So, are the same people showing up at each meeting, or?
Some are, and so we have some new each time, and we have some add and some drop, and,
Oh, okay.
but there's been a nice core group actually.
I'd say at least 50% of the
Yeah.
people attending have been to all 3.
Okay.
And it may even be more than that. I mean, there's been a real loyal group of people who.
Last time parking was rough because they were having a band
All
concert.
city
Band
Yeah.
concert.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask about, because I was in the other room with the band concert for my
Oh,
sixth
yeah.
grader.
And like a 51-year tradition in Batavia, and so the parking was at a premium, at least on the Main
I
Street
was
side.
It was at the high school, and so the band concert was in the main gym, and you guys were in like the
Oh,
cafeteria.
yeah, the high school, yeah.
We were actually in room 101
Oh,
off the
so
cafeteria.
the concert didn't disrupt you at all, did it?
Only the parking aspect.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And people that parked on the Wilson Street side found the parking was actually okay on that side, but the Main Street side was
It was insane.
packed,
Oh.
double parked. It was.
I got there at like 6:30 and it was about 3/4 full at that,
It was
at
insane.
that time, yeah.
Yeah. But it's a
Well,
wonderful
it's 5th
concert.
grade through 12th grade.
No, it's all-
It's amazing. There's so many band kids.
Yeah. That's a wonderful thing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new tradition.
So I think that probably is it for.
Okay. The Standing Committee on Facilities, Joanne?
Yes, we met and we spent a good deal of time going through the technology plan and approved that. I guess I would like to give a shout out to Ross, who reformatted that plan. It's really a nicely organized plan, and I don't know if you noticed that nice little list of acronyms that he provided so that you could read it and understand it. But did a fine job. We asked a ton of questions, mostly curiosity type questions or clarification, questions, so that we understood exactly what was in there. But it was well done. Rich, I think you asked the question, how is the relationship with Webbit going? And the response was, it seems to be, a good relationship. The response time has been reasonable when there have been issues. So that was an important question to ask this year since it was our first year.
And the staff there actually did 2 reviews of the technology plan to, identify issues that we may have overlooked. So it was nice to have another set of eyes on this.
So that took us a long time, and the other thing that we did was we approved an RFP to be sent out to architectural firms to get cost estimates for moving the business office from up here downstairs to make some room for the RFID sorting equipment. It was the kind of information that our committee had asked for because it's not part of the capital asset plan. And in order to implement the RFID system, we started uncovering, other kinds of expenses that would be incurred. So that will be going out.
Yeah, our master plan includes that. It includes some revisions to technical services, including an office for the department manager. It includes some reconfiguration on the upper floor of the collections and such. And there are a lot of other details that are tied into all that. But yeah, that piece was more architectural in nature and beyond the scope of what BTC could do. So we'll bring something back to the board relating to either architectural or construction management services related to construction estimation, so we can build some numbers into the plan.
The plan.
Okay. George? Okay, this is crossed out, but there's this that's not crossed out. Is
Right.
this something we talk about?
Rich wants to talk about that. There was no finance or outreach meetings, but Rich does have something he would like to bring up.
Just a quick reminder, if anybody has any comments on the email that George has had set out discussing the recognition of library leader. If you have any comments on them, please send them back to George, and George will